I am Subina Shrestha, a PhD candidate at the University of Bergen, and I'm presenting on how do EU goals get localized, a case of sustainable urban logistics. This research is part of the City Freight project. Despite operating at an urban geographic scale, the governance of urban logistics is embedded in a multi-level process. In other words, sustainable urban logistics governance does not occur in isolation, but is rather interdependent on multiple levels of governance. In the European context in particular, the role of the EU has been instrumental in setting sustainability goals at the supranational levels, which are then operationalized locally. As such, the EU set the stage for sustainable urban logistics in 2011 when, in its white paper, it set an explicit target of essentially CO2-free city logistics in major urban areas by 2030, thus bringing sustainable urban logistics to the forefront of urban planning and also recognizing the role of local authorities in doing so. Against this backdrop, this research asks how have cities localized EU goals in their respective contexts and empirically assesses how the EU goal of sustainable urban logistics are localized across the Norwegian cities of Bergen, Oslo, Stavanger, and Trondheim. Here we see the methodological approach where we used mixed qualitative methods, beginning with a thematic analysis of transport-related documents across the three governance levels, the EU, the national context of Norway, and the local level of the 4 Norwegian cities. We supplement this with data from interviews and meetings with user partners of the City Freight project. In order to assess how localization occurs, we use the analytical framework of steering effects. Localization is understood as how supranational goals are adopted and adapted at the local level. And steering effects refers to how supranational goals bring about changes in policy discourses, institutional settings, and decision-making at the local levels, and is understood along these 4 dimensions. Discursive effects refers to the references to the EU's goals and agendas. Institutional effects refers to the changes in institutional norms and new strategic plans. Relational effects refer to changes in actor relations in the urban logistics network. And finally, resource effects refer to the allocation of resources, either human or financial, for sustainable urban logistics. Our findings show 3 instances of localization. Firstly, the EU's nearly zero emissions target has been localized across the cities. We find that this target has been discursively adopted by all the 4 cities, albeit variations occur. For instance, the city of Bergen has set the target by 2025, which is 5 years ahead of the EU target, whereas the city of Stavanger's target for zero emissions is 2040, which is 10 years behind. Secondly, the EU's multi-stakeholder collaborative approach has been localized across all 4 cities. We find all 4 dimensions of steering effects in this instance, although variations occur. As we see in box 6, the relational effect of this approach has materialized only in the case of Oslo, which has a public-private partnership for sustainable urban logistics. Finally, the financing of sustainable urban logistics has also been localized across the cities, and we find 3 out of the 4 steering effects. In summary, the discursive effect of the EU's goal is the most common steering effect, and this is perhaps unsurprising because goals are easy and convenient to adopt or adapt discursively. An important caveat here is that discursively adopting a goal does not guarantee that it will be met. Several other factors, such as institutional resources and relational factors, have to be in place to ensure this. The relational effect is the least common steering effect, and this is because several functional silos within public departments and conflicting interests across urban logistics stakeholders present different challenges for forging new actor relations. To conclude, this study situates sustainable urban logistics within a multi-level governance, offering insights into how these goals get localized. We posit that discursive legitimation of such goals does not automatically imply that these goals will be institutionalized, and call for further research on the goals' institutionalizations. Thank you.